that's not necessarily good because the algorithm changes how it measures stuff literally all the time. Like sometimes my style is rewarded, sometimes it's not. And furthermore, I don't trust anybody else to handle it because if you fuck it up, I have to fire you. I have to make a big statement like, no, like I prefer to not fire you for goofing off on the internet, you know? Like,
Roy, you should give me the passwords. I want to post something in your Twitter.
oh God. Yeah. I was
I found
hacks.
a
The
really
cat
interesting
posted
picture of
something.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh no. What, a Chris Chan photo?
I'm not going to continue. Not on this good Christian show.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, Roy, please never give Nathan your social media
you,
passwords.
you should absolutely give me your passwords.
You're listening to the Art and War podcast with your hosts, Nathan, B.R., and Paige. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience. B.R. is a British anarchist that moved to the States. And Paige is a lifelong artist based in Washington. All three are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn Art Page. Enjoy the show.
So Roy, you were talking about, cancel culture and the gun community. I think that'd be cool to get into, but before we get into that, I'd really like to ask, what is a particular people group that you hate, specifically racial,
Oh my god.
and why?
Well, being Asian, of course, like it's really weird, right? Because when you're dealing with people who are outside of Asians, like you got to be super politically correct, but within the Asian diaspora, like man, I think it's like you hate people you're more familiar with. It's like the Japanese really fucking hate the Koreans, but I can't tell them apart a lot of times, you know.
I am treading so carefully in this conversation.
Yeah, and like, oh, yeah.
I have-
Since I'm Taiwanese, it's like you need a very subtle eye to tell the difference between a Chinese and Taiwanese, and yeah,
I just like to see it,
impossible.
Do their eyes slant upwards or downwards?
No, it's more like the whole Italian thing. It's like we're like Italians who stayed in Italy were like the rich and like beautiful and they didn't need anything, whereas like the desperate and poor fled to America. So like you can, well, obviously we prefer our Italian Americans because they're Americans, you know. But
That's
there's
where-
definitely a difference between an Italian American and an Italian Italian.
Yeah, they're all wops to me.
oh my
Oh, God.
I'm just like
Yeah.
that is I kid. That is where our good friend, now unmasked, administrative results comes from.
And he's
Oh,
a
he's
handsome boy.
Italian?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's got some of
he's
that
Italian.
handsome wop.
Yeah,
That's how you can survive in
Wop,
Arizona.
bastard.
Yeah. But I mean, being Asian and growing up in like, New Jersey is like I couldn't tell white people apart. Like Jews and Italians and like WASPs, they all seemed the same to me. And it wasn't until like I went overseas and like had like American teachers explain the difference to me. Like, oh, a Minnesotan is like the super nice Mr. Thomas or whatever. You know, like, oh, and also the crazy guy with hairy chest hair. Oh, he's Italian. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and then like when people get super upset about Jews and stuff, I'm like, hey, did you know Natalie Portman and Harrison Ford are Jewish? And like, like my redneck friends like couldn't believe that manly Harrison Ford is a Jewish person. It's like, yeah, to Asians, guys kind of all look the same. So I get it when they say Asians all look the same. Like, yeah, it takes a refined eye. You got to really know your peoples, basically.
Yeah, therein lies my greatest weakness, being half Asian and half white, is I can't tell any white people apart and I can't tell any Asians apart. They all look exactly the same to me. It's
Yeah,
like,
you're just human. Yeah.
yeah, every time I go to
Isn't
America,
that
it's like walking,
beautiful?
well, every time I go to Chinatown, it's like walking through a sea of Jackie Chan's.
But when it comes to half Asians, there is there's a reverse bell curve. Like the standard distribution. Like most people are in the middle, and there's some are really ugly and some are really beautiful. With like mixed Asians, it's a reverse bell curve. And I noticed this when I was in Taipei, and I talked to my friends about it. And I think it's like you either have like the 80-year-old sex tourist with like a fucking desperate prostitute and they have a kid, or you have like the really rich multinational corporate employee who's like over trying to like establish themselves in Asia, and they get like a high class wife or something. That's how you get like really beautiful mixies who are really smart, are really mentally deranged and ugly ones. I mean that's just my observation, and I feel I can say that because I'm like 1.3% Dutch, so I'm technically kind of a mixie too.
That's your Elizabeth Warren claim. You're like, I'm basically white, so it's fine. I can.
Is your mom first generation?
Yeah, both my parents came over to get like super high education. I think like my dad's got like 2 bachelors, and he has a PhD in electrical shit and electrical engineering specifically. Then my mom came. She was like at the University of Iowa, which is like weird. I haven't even been to the state of Iowa. I can't even. Yeah, but you know, she got her degree in like I think computer science, but her career had nothing to do with computers really, other than investment stuff. She ended up working for like the Royal Bank of Scotland.
That's
my connection to Europe.
That is so stereotypically Asian. My mom's kind of. Do you have this thing where your Asian parent? Well, but in your case, both your Asian parents are like super racist.
No, I think they're like really. They go out of their way to be kind. I think.
Yeah.
Like,
like, Nathan.
Yeah.
Well, they will say like, you know, obviously un-PC things like, oh hey, like did you know other races smell different?
Oh yeah, no, I mean specifically mostly towards every other kind of Asian except for your own.
Nah, not really. Like they just wanted me to have like a nice Asian girlfriend or wife. They didn't care. They're like, oh, Korean, Japanese, it's all the same. But yeah, I'm married to a white girl, so.
So still.
Yeah, my mom, when I brought home like white girls I was dating, she basically called me a race traitor. And every time I went to like Hong Kong, no, everyone from Hong Kong is terrible. Like Japan, no, absolutely not. Didn't talk to me for months. I find like the first generation Asian diaspora, there's a lot of that. The only reason that I think I grew up with like Vietnamese and Korean and so on friends is because I was one of like 8 Asian people in my entire city.
Yeah. That was kind of my experience being in New Jersey, which I kind of appreciated because you get used to being a weirdo and the odd one out, you know? And that's that's strength because humans are really social creatures. And the pressure to conform is intense. I think a lot of people, they want to like pretend that, oh, I'm a super badass rebel. I don't need the approval of anybody. But, you know, all humans need the approval of one another. And that's like one thing that you learn in like reading about advertising and psychology. Is that everyone thinks that they're super fucking logical and anyone who doesn't agree with them is stupid or deranged or something, but that's not true at all. Like humans are deeply emotional creatures, and you know that kind of ties back into what we do with art and advertising and what I do specifically with advertising for retail. Yeah, and for you, like that's your art stuff.
Yeah, I mean your brand in particular, in case anyone hasn't clued in yet, we're talking to Roy from Weapon Outfitters.
Yes, Roy from Weapon Outfitters. We like to introduce you immediately, just hit you with the racial questions.
But look, like the reason we wanted to talk to you today is very much in that kind of vein of humans really are social creatures. We try and fit into like neat little boxes, but there is also a constant urge to not fit in those neat little boxes. And Weapon Outfitters being in what is traditionally a very conservative kind of space, but then utilizing the kind of imagery you do with girls and guns and all that kind of thing. And the current climate we're in, where the culture war is very, very present in kind of social media. The deeply online people live in it. And so a brand like yours, having survived so long and grown so much and matured over the years, like it's an interesting spot to find yourself in, having like been around for a while, weathered a lot of this culture, and I don't know, kind of changing here and there. We got Weapon Outfitters After Dark, and then also you were mentioning a slightly more PG approach as of late. So Can you tell us a little bit about kind of how these things have matured for you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've been around for since 2009,
Wow.
2010. So it's like, 13 years now. And like I would say I became a serious enthusiast in 2006 thereabouts. I've been on like ARFCOM for like almost 20 years. Yeah. But like,
Damn.
it went from like M4, like good M4 clones were hard to get to now it's literally impossible to buy an upper receiver without M4 feed ramps, which is a problem for people with M16 type barrels, right? Like a lot's changed, especially the
Yeah.
culture. And I keep forgetting that I'm old because I look in the mirror. I'm still like, I still look like I'm in my mid 20s, just the benefit of being Asian and working out. But I am
Yeah.
definitely not in my mid 20s. And I meet peers who are in their mid 20s and like, oh, don't you remember when like Daniel Defense fired Larry Vickers for somebody else? And like, huh? What are you talking about? Oh, that happened like 10 years ago. Shit. Like to me, it's still like the back of my mind. Like being ADHD, like my perception of time is super compressed and messed up too. It's like I can pick back up with old friends like I haven't seen in 20 years, like nothing's changed or my time frame just gets screwed up a little. Yeah, so I have to like use my iPhone photo albums as kind of like a journal. It's like, oh yeah, that's what happened that year.
Like, oh, that was
Yeah.
10 years ago?
Oh yeah, whoopsie daisy. So I forget now that like a lot of the people I'm talking to online, if they're anonymous, I have no idea if it's like, 60-year-old dude, 40-year-old around my age, or, like a 18-year-old like high school kid who's edgy and wants to make a splash on the internet like I did when I was 18 years old and like, full of opinions and very sure of myself.
Well, and we see all forms of that in the gun industry and gun culture these days. I mean, being part of that edgy anonymous side of things, like there's a lot of us from all over the place with all sorts of opinions and people really kind of making an impact in all sorts of ways. Like, I mean, just Americana Pipe Dream, recent guest of ours on, like a couple of Zoomers like really killing it in surplus and really making a splash.
Yeah,
And they're
That
it's
was a
like,
great
wild. I did
episode.
not expect
dude,
them to be as young as they were. I'm like, I
no,
fucking
Yeah.
met them.
blows me away, but it's so cool, like people are really getting their hands in. Doesn't matter their experience or age, like they're just just going in with both feet first and crushing it. So it's
Oh
easy to
yeah.
make an impact and easy to make a name for yourself if you're doing something interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Like meeting young guns at SHOT Show or like, in the region, like are super talented photographers and like already like making a big impact on the culture. It's good because you can't stay young and full of energy and ready to fight forever. But yeah, as you get older, you get wiser and pick your battles. Pick your projects more wisely. Yeah. But yeah, the young generation is doing great. I mean, their work is so good. They understand guns a lot better. We have less. I feel in group conflicts about fundamental stuff. Because one old story is that of Jim Zumbo. He's like an old hunting writer, and he wrote about ARs and AKs being literally terrorist rifles.
Oh my
And then
god.
like obviously like there's like about 10 years ago, but yeah, ar15.com, they were the only online like gun place at the time really. Or ar15.com, M4 carbine, like they all went after Zumbo and made him change his tune. And it was Ted Nugent who like reached out to him and it's like, hey, you really screwed up, bro, because he was like losing all his sponsorships and like hunting magazine jobs and stuff like that. But yeah, you really don't have that type of BS with like fuddy-duddy compromise takes anymore in the
Yeah.
entire gun community. Like everyone kind of understands. We have a different issue. It's like my dream was that guns would be apolitical. And like that monkey paw thing from Simpsons, where like, oh, you get your wish, but yeah,
There's a catch.
Yeah, there's a catch. The catch is that people you disagree with on everything else, they also agree with you that yeah, guns are for them too, and that's true. So I I think there's like a mission creep danger as a gun person. Is like, are you about gun rights? Are you about gun rights and weigh all these other cultural war issues? Right, you got to pick and choose. And I feel like for me, holding my nose on the other stuff and staying relatively focused on gun rights is the best path for me. Obviously, if somebody wants me dead for who I am, like that is kind of a problem, you know. I think that people on the internet want to play the logical game, where like, oh, always logically consistent. Here's my beliefs, and oh, I support gun rights, but this person wants to kill me. Well, I support gun rights. I'm gonna teach him how to use a gun and all this shit because I'm so logically consistent. That makes sense on the internet, you know, where there's no consequences and you get to be logically consistent. But in real life, like we were saying earlier, humans are deeply emotional and irrational, and I have no need to be logically consistent. I feel like I'm not a professional debater. I'm not on a debate team anymore. Like I'm just trying to live my life and like not get my head blown off or not get robbed. Not have to deal with like crazy stuff like I see in Seattle every day. You know.
Were you on a debate team?
What was it in high school? They really recruited me, but I had a critical flaw.
That's also a very
debater.
thing.
Yeah, like they're like, oh, you're so good. You should really join the debate team. But man, I can have anger issues, and I can also go really personal in debates, which I'm a little bit.
Well, you were adopted,
of.
you fucking retard. Fuck you.
Stuff like that. Oh boy, yeah. If I can make it personal, ooh, like yeah, it gets me excited in a bad way. So I realize that's a deep personal flaw of mine. So I try to never make enemies on the internet. I reserve all anger for striking distance.
Yeah. People
like
on the
if
internet
you're within punching distance,
really
then I'll be like, okay, sure, let's talk, bro. Yeah.
Not from behind the keyboard.
Speaking of Seattle, how is Washington right now? Out of curiosity.
Oh, it is weird. It is. I just recently went because my wife loves musicals, and I'll go with her for the culture and shit. But yeah, Seattle's growing in a two-pronged way. Like it's getting nicer and more expensive, and all the major corporations keep moving people in. But like the homeless industrial complex continues to grow, and it continues to draw people from all over the country to come here just for the benefits. So like right now, the money is outgrowing the spending and the desperation. But yeah, it's weird because you'll have like yuppies walking their little dogs, and like a block away, it's literally like Mad Max. Like if you come to Seattle in the summer, just drive down around Third Avenue at 10 p.m. on any random weekday. It's like a zombie movie. You got like shambling like drug addicts and open air drug markets and ambulances everywhere trying to like save people who are like dying on the street. And then a block away is Belltown, which is like, you know, the fancy rich neighborhood for programmers and shit. But it's like separated by 1 or 2 blocks. It's just really surreal. It's like a sci-fi dystopia kind of, because it's like really expensive, nice tech stuff, and then you got the desperate druggies on the street. It's a pretty interesting situation.
And these people are like just kind of just acting like all of the ruin isn't happening. Like, oh yeah, just keep on investing, just hold your nose, carry on.
Absolutely. I mean, the sheriff's office is literally surrounded by like a massive encampment of homeless, and the sheriff made it so their employees don't have to go into the office anymore because it's getting too dangerous. Like they're literally law enforcement, but they can't do anything about like, you know, the drug-addled individuals outside literally their office building. Yeah, Nordstrom just left. You know, you're seeing that in San Francisco too. But I think that we're starting to see the early indicators that the economy's kind of hurting. Just if you go into like a skyscraper in Seattle and you look into other skyscrapers, you see a lot of them are empty. So I think the remote work revolution is really changing things, and people want quality of life. They don't want to like deal with like desperate mentally ill people on the street to go to work, you know. Especially if you're
Yeah.
like a programmer for Amazon, like you program from like oh, actually I heard this about Utah. I heard all the tech bros were moving to Utah and it's become like the Silicon Slopes because
Yeah.
people will
What?
just like they'll go work on their laptop and go skiing during the day. So all the luxury skiing areas in Utah are overrun with tech bros, you know. So the only reason Utah is staying relatively conservative and pro gun rights is because of the Mormons and how organized they are.
Thank fuck for
So
the Mormons, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, the Mormon Church, like love them or hate them as an institution, you know, they they get their people to vote, and overwhelmingly Mormons like guns. Yeah, I deal with a lot of ex-Mormons here in the Seattle area because you're a bad boy or girl, like get kicked out, you know, like where do you end up? Usually in Portland or Seattle.
Man, that is wild to me. I actually really liked Utah, the one and only time I've ever been there.
Yeah, people have shilled Utah to me hardcore. They're like St. George by the Nevada border is like the place to be, and they're not even Mormon. They're just like they're just people who want like good gun rights, places to shoot, good communities. They're like, yeah, Utah's the shit, bro. So
Can you imagine running your business from there? They're like, "Hey, Roy, what do you do for a living?"
well, I tell them, but you know, I go, oh yeah, it's literally 2 hours from Las Vegas, so you
Yeah,
know.
no, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I imagine it'd be difficult to run like a firearms related business from Washington right now.
Yeah, you basically got to dot your I's and cross your T's. Like we're internally auditing our shit all the time, and you know, we're a little bit paranoid, making sure that it's not like the attorney general going after us or anything. But yeah, I think other than just the gun law stuff, though, I can't stay in this state much longer. Like 20 years ago when I came here for college, it was a purple state. And, you know, purple states kind of get the best of both worlds. It's super laissez faire, but I think after Trump, it just made the liberals go crazy and they've dominated state politics and they just ram things through.
Dude, I
And
say this all the time.
it's
2016
terrible.
was the last good year. Like it was
Our
dog shit in a lot
2019
of
was
ways.
the peak. Yeah.
Yes. Then they had to kill that fucking gorilla.
No, that's your thesis. Yeah, that might have been it too. But there's a lot of converging forces, right, in our society. I think right now the inability for young men to get laid and inability for people to talk to each other, like a lot of it's related to social media, I think. I mean, I can't hate social media so much because without it, my company wouldn't exist. It literally could not survive
Yeah.
without social media.
But
But yeah.
it's definitely changing people. And it's changing people for the worse, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it's like a blessing and a curse. Like literally everything the three of us do is
because of
heavily, yeah, it's heavily internet based, heavily like we have been able to reach so many more people because of this. At the same time, like awful kind of habits and thought processes have and ideologies even have been spread through it as well. That have kind of corrupted the culture and led us to be more broken than we might have been 20 years ago. So it's like, you know, if you can find your people, you're good. If you can't, woof, you are off in the maelstrom.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of malicious elements looking for lost and confused people to recruit. And I think what it is it's fifth generation warfare, where like the info space being used as a literal battleground actually matters. Yeah, I think a person on Twitter once put it as you know, the Metal Gear Solid world, or they put it a kind of a parody, but not really, of a Metal Gear Solid, where like, oh, in the future, the battleground will be the mind of every soldier, and that's absolutely what's happening right now.
Oh, yeah.
War
Yeah,
never
but-
changes.
Yeah, it's fifth generation warfare where you want to like convince people. Like, I think it was Victory in the Age of Durable Disorder, written by Sean McFate. He's like a 82nd Airborne officer who became a mercenary, who became a professor at Georgetown. where he talks about uh, war in the current generation, and this was written before the invasion of Ukraine. But like China and Russia know that they can't win in a conventional war, so they fight with other means. They know that America has an on-off switch for war, whereas they have a
Mm.
gradient. So corporate espionage and information war, like that's kind of where they can fight Americans and not get their shit pushed in, right? And they were kind of were just dominating us for a bit. I think TikTok is like the fifth generation warfare nuclear bomb. Like you can fuck up a lot of people real quickly. You
Oh,
can
dude,
make the population stupid. Like
yeah, you scroll through that for a few hours and you have a few, like, if you have some kind of mental illness, TikTok will figure it out and exploit the fuck out of it. And that sounds like a really boomery thing to say, but I
it's
mean, you
true.
check on
it's
proven.
It's proven. Yeah.
You check on any like mentally ill teenage girl, or I'm sure even some of the lads, it'll plug right into your insecurities and prey on them and feed you whatever you're addicted to. And next thing you know, like, oh, you're not doing anything productive with your like healthiest years.
No, they had a case where they were like fake Tourette's syndrome people, and then the one girl on TikTok who had fake Tourette's, she would say something stupid like muffins or something. I don't remember, but like suddenly all across the world, everyone else started having the same Tourette's tick. And it was just learned from this faker. It was total BS. And it's like it was social contagion. Like you could literally measure it. Like so I would say you can use social contagion for good and bad. Like I feel like everyone understanding that the Second Amendment's not about hunting.
Yep.
That's definitely a meme, a social contagion meme that was taught to everyone. Like I learned that the Second Amendment Foundation, which is headquartered here in Bellevue, Washington, like 15 minutes away from me. And oh, you guys just had Adam Kraut on, actually.
Yep.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
He's great.
Yeah, he was stuck in my truck with me for a few hours when we were going out to night shoot. And, we talked a lot about the history of the Second Amendment Foundation. And yeah, they definitely helped pay for scholars and like fund research into reading into the Second Amendment and what it really meant. And
well, it was lost for a time. Like people, that's a crazy thing. That as a Brit, I would have just assumed that this is something that has been handed down and everyone kind of had an understanding. But what I've learned over the last couple of years, having been here for a minute now, is that a lot of people who had, maybe parents or grandparents and great grandparents who were shooters had really lost touch with a lot of what the Second Amendment was about. Apart from like, yeah, we're as a culture very comfortable around firearms, but we're not like necessarily 100% on the same page of why we have them and how important they are to make sure we have access to military grade firearms or whatever you want to call them. Like it was something that was lost, and it's something that's so easily lost and has been exploited over generations for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so thankfully, with a recent Supreme Court case, like eventually we'll have protected Second Amendment rights for a whole nother generation. Like it's basically unbeatable at this point. Like it's going to be another 40 years before they can threaten the Supreme Court ruling. I feel with like changing the power and structure of the Supreme Court, possibly, which is something which was unthinkable like 10 years ago, right? But now it's like openly discussed by anti-gun politicians. But sucks to suck, losers.
We'll see.
They lost for now, but Yeah.
It is nice to see that there's a good amount of people who have built up like actual resources to not just be like a scattering of voices in the wind. Like you said, the Second Amendment Foundation, people actually plugging in and having scholarly understandings of why this stuff's important. Historians and lawyers. I mean, lawyers out the arse these days. It's nice, but at the same time, some of the things they're pursuing to clamp down on that are like so nonsensical. It's like you can't even fight them with precedent and history. It's just like they will just be beating this dead horse until something sticks. But
yeah. Well, even then, like you argue with a lot of people enough, and you finally show the scholarly articles. You finally show this is what it's actually built on. very oftentimes it goes to, well, it's outdated anyway, and we don't need to think of the children.
Yeah, emotional appeal after all that stuff gets thrown out. But
it's like they have their view. The facts aren't going to change that.
Oh yeah, of course. That's basically public policy debate. That's like advertising again. Like we're dealing with human beings are emotional, and you can't beat you can I think it was like Ben Shapiro was like, facts don't care about your feelings, and people realized it was reverse, like feelings don't care about your facts. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that kind of backfired a little bit.
Yeah. So it's like, what can you do? Well, you just got to play the mass communication game, which is what I've discovered as my Twitter's gotten bigger. Because I remember when I was like younger and I had a bunch of artsy friends, they would read like philosophical books about what is the nature of a human in art and communication, and like that type of like big picture stuff. And now it's like 20 years later, like I gotta like consider that. I gotta like use that woo-woo concept in my daily life. You know, like can things be misinterpreted, or what are you trying to express? You know, and how are you going to express it? It's weird growing as a brand. Like you have to be super careful, and I mean we can bring that back to the whole HK thing. It's like right, like professional brand management. It's kind of a pain because I was the social media manager for B. Myers for a bit, and
I did not know that.
They're like a major defense industry company. They're like a mom and pop version of Raytheon or something, where they engineer solutions for cool guys or for the military, but they're like a family-owned business. They're like a really small company, and they need to get the message out there that they're professional and capable and cool, but they also they want to make a big impact, but you kind of have to take risks to make big impacts.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like walking like a fine line. Like I got like talented photographers. Like the CEO recruited his contacts with the army to get like young Rangers to like pose and model for him and do stuff, and like that's how they created their awesome content. And it's really expensive and time consuming, but you kind of need to do that.
Well, it sets you apart. Otherwise, you're just one of the many.
Yeah, or you can just be like a Lockheed or Raytheon, where they just have like super cheesy CGI stuff. I mean, they don't care. They're getting the bazillion-dollar contracts either way.
Hi gang, BR here with a quick word from our newest sponsor, Got Your Six. Got Your Six is an app for civilians to be able to instantly notify like-minded people in your community that require immediate assistance. Within seconds, you can notify everyone in your tribe of what's happening, such as a red flag law or otherwise, where it's happening, and how to get there to help. Everyone who responds to help will get GPS guidance to the location where you send the alert. The app also includes a messenger with full end-to-end encryption, as well as bulletin sections to share upcoming training classes, legislative sessions, and media. Got Your Six also provides a list of recommended defense attorneys in all 50 states. Access to a network of fellow prepared citizens comes at just $2.99 a month. That's less than a pack of Oreos and doesn't come with the shame of being a fat The app is only available at www.gotyoursixapp.net, where there are instructions on how to install the app on both Android and iOS devices. The app is banned from the Apple and Google Play stores, which lets you know it's the real deal. To find out more, you can follow Got Your Six on Instagram at GotYourSixApp, or you can find their website in the show notes below. As always, be intelligent when talking to strangers online, and don't say anything dumb. Thanks for listening, people. This week's episode is brought to you by returning sponsor of the Art and War podcast, FieldSeeds.com. FieldSeeds.com is an e-commerce federally licensed firearms dealer. They provide virtual reviews on brand new firearms, optics, and gear, where at the end of the review, you are automatically entered with purchase of a review to win the item being reviewed.
Currently, they've got reviews up from $20 for a brand new Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 2.0 to $60 for a brand new Trijicon ACOG with an RMR on it. Each review has limited seating, Yeah. So your chances of winning the giveaway are that much higher. I have to lean into it. I have to. It's a pun.
God. Check out fieldseeds.com to purchase your review and enter to win the item being reviewed. And use code CBRN, that's Charlie Bravo Romeo November, to get 10% off your order.
Be sure to also check out their Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at @field_seats for updates on the products and other tips and info like how to pack a ruck or how to gas your rifle.
Once again, use code CBRN to receive 10% off your entire purchase at fieldseeds.com. Terms and conditions apply. That's kind of what I think seemed to have happened with HK. Like, it's something I discussed briefly on, this will be coming out a little bit after our last episode, but HK like makes good money off government contracts, and the civilian sales and appealing to civilians, especially stateside, seems to be kind of an afterthought for them. And someone under their like whole controversial tweet, they posted about like they searched HK's account for right to and gun rights and Second Amendment, and there's just zero results. And it's like, okay, someone at HK, like they got together as a brand, I assume, when this social media manager was being trained, and probably their social media team and the marketing team, and somehow it slipped their mind that bitching about like equality and kind of gun bunnies and how we treat women in this industry is like a higher thing to preach than gun rights themselves. Like to the point that gun rights aren't even a percentage of the equation. It's just not a topic discussed. But this was a good idea to like spend a whole day on. It blows my mind.
I just found a 2015 article. It was about let's bring it back a little bit. Talk about HK as a multinational arms dealer, arms manufacturer engineer. Like the German government,
to the cartel.
Yeah, the German government fucking hates HK, right? They like go after them all the time, target them all the time. There was that scandal with the cartels getting G36s, and like the German government was super upset about that. So there's this 2015 article about, I just posted my Twitter, is about Germany versus HK basically, and like one of HK's plans, as written here, was like, they're gonna try to boost. They're trying to double their U.S. civilian revenue to 100 million in 2015, doubling their 2013 sales level. But in sensitivity to school shootings, they'll be focusing on pistols rather than assault rifles. And then like that kind of explains the last 8 years, right? Where like the cool guns that HK makes are impossible to get, but there's like a bazillion VP9 variants now. Like they're going super hard on the pistols, and that's a fine strategy for them. I'd love for a P7 M13, and I think the SP5 that they make, where they finally made like a HK made MP5 clone. That was like, I think for them that was like walking a fine line, because it's a pistol, wink wink.
Yeah, it's not a scary AR. It's a much smaller bullet that does way less damage.
Yeah, and it still like appeals to the fans. But German law also fucks them up a little bit in that they can't sell like military the exact designation, right? So the MR556 is not a HK416. It's wink wink different. That like it's stupider. Like yeah, but like all the cool HK stuff, like you can't get it directly from HK unless you buy like a police surplus cut up version or something. Like you can get an MP5 that's completely US made now, like RCM Rim County Manufacturing. They produce like really high quality MP5 components, and that's basically what like the cloners make. Like my Dakota Tactical MP5 clone, the D54, wink wink. Like it has cleaner welds than the HK model MP5,
Well, yeah, they're art pieces rather than basically, what would be the same as fulfilling government contracts. Like they're like, this is something people really want a nice version of, not let's get them off the production line.
Yeah, they're made for the love of it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know, people still want German stuff, so they'll buy like the MR556 and swap out as much German stuff onto there as possible. Because the German stuff does have different engineering, different steels. Like the HK416 is a 20-year-old design now, but their barrel, they use a French steel, which is denser than like everything else out there. Well, this is also 2 generations behind now. But like the HK416 barrel has internal taper, it has really dense, ultra pure French steel that gives us insanely long service life. Like you can get up to like I think John Knipe of Magpul, former SF guy, like in 2014 he published a thing about his 416 where he got it up to 67,000 rounds.
Oh
The
my god.
barrel's still shooting. And that's pretty typical. I mean, for cold hammer forged European guns using European steel. Like the FN Scar typically gets up to 70,000 rounds before you get 4-inch groups, which is considered shot out by like people like me. But 4-inch groups at 100, like I think that's like
Better
the
than
U.S.
4.
military's baseline for the M16A2. Like for accepting brand new M16s. Obviously, brand new M16s beat that pretty easily because, like, you know, manufacturers, they have no incentive to make a shitty baseline gun. But like 4-inch at 100, like that's considered the military's minimum requirements. Yeah. I think once you're keyholing though, like I feel like after you get to 4 inches, you push it more than that, you're gonna start getting keyholing.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
calling that tolerable. Whew.
Yeah, that's like AK level accuracy, you know. But
Oh,
you know,
God. And you've pissed everyone off. Roy, why'd you have to do that?
well, hey, you can still get headshots with an AK at 100 yards, pretty freaking easy. So, like, don't underestimate AK accuracy. Like, it's still dangerous, you know.
Okay. You sold them. We're back in the clear.
Yeah, I mean, I heart Rifle Dynamics AKs. Like, I got 2, and shoot, I should have bought more AKs back when they're cheap.
Dude,
Yeah.
I talk about that. That comes up so much at work. Everyone's like, yeah, would be nice, but never again, probably.
Yeah, but
As much as I want to get autistic about terminal ballistics and stuff, I feel like let's get it a little more on track.
I thought you were about to deep dive ballistic
No,
stuff.
I'm going to be Mitch in this situation.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah. So
I'm
we're
impressed.
talking about HK and how they make really cool stuff.
Yeah. Like you decided to come out swinging a little bit on their post because so their social media manager was basically saying like, you know, I'm not really into using women in advertising, and that's very much Weapon Outfitters to a T. So what were your kind of thoughts on all of that?
Oh yeah, I remember now. It was like they were supporting Miller Lite's super cringy ad, which didn't make any sense. It was full of lies and bullshit. You know, like let's start from the beginning. Miller Lite's ad was like, oh, in the 80s we use bikini models for advertising. Oh, it's so cringe, so stupid. Or did you know that women were super involved with brewing beer? Like women love beer, which is on its face completely what? Like what are you talking about? Like we're like in a beer brewing mecca in the Northwest, like microbrews and all that crazy shit. That all kind of like really took off in Seattle and Portland area like 20 years ago. Now it's everywhere, right? But it's like you go to those type of communities and places, it's like it's probably the most male dominated. It's like more male dominated than like sports bikes or car racing or illegal drag racing. You know, like there's like more girls involved in that than there is beer brewing. So that statement was already kind of like weird. And then they were like, oh, you send in all your old advertisements and we'll ground it into a mulch, turn it into literal shit because it's bad shit. Then we'll grow hops from the bad shit to make good shit. That was what the ad was about. It just strained credulity immensely. Like you're going to turn old laminated posters into fertilizer because women love beer and there's like a ton of women in the beer industry. What? Like it just didn't make any sense. And then people were jumping into that because of the culture war crap. Like technically, that ad was released before the Dylan Mulvaney controversy, but people didn't care. Like they just want to be like, "Fuck you, woke bullshit." I'm so sick of your woke bullshit. And then HK jumped in. He's like, "Yeah, we support Miller Lite because you don't need to use swimsuit models." Like no beer bunnies, which I think is a stupid term, and no gun bunnies, which I also think is a stupid term. Like something about we should look up the actual tweet, huh? But it was like something like if you use beer bunnies and gun bunnies, you don't support women, which I thought was a little ridiculous. So
it's like I literally work with them. Like what?
Yeah, I mean, recruiting models now is actually a lot easier than when I first started. It's like, one, I think I've gotten better as a photographer, and two, hot girls are pre-canceled. Like everyone hates hot girls. Like the left hates hot girls because how dare you be beautiful? Like every beautiful woman must like get on their knees and beg for forgiveness and be all bodies are beautiful, everyone's beautiful in their own way, that type of stuff, like, which is a nice sentiment, and I agree. Like you shouldn't be judged purely on your aesthetics because goddamn, I was really ugly when I was young, right? So so I was like, yeah, you're more than your looks, absolutely, but looks also matter. That's why the Army Manual AR 670-1, like standards and regulations for uniforms, that matters because you don't want your soldiers looking like a bag of shit, right? Like you want them to look like sharp, in shape. Like aesthetics, I just had a defense of general aesthetics. It's like, yeah, like you can have your opinion that you don't want to use women in advertising, you find it cheesy, it offends your aesthetic sensibilities. Sure, that's totally reasonable, and I agree with your right to think that way. But some people like it, and aesthetics will always be a thing. And beautiful women are okay. Like you don't need to cancel them. Like this happens in the culture war, where like every single Western video game company is trying to make their female characters be dumpy because they want representation. But I feel like that's kind of silly, right? Because like nobody looks like Guts from Berserk. Nobody looks like the JoJo characters are professional wrestlers, but men can appreciate that because they'll see that. But he's just like me, for real, for real. Or it's like a woman might see like a skinny model and like feel really bad about themselves or something. So it's just a weird culture war thing, and it's why I try to like keep my stuff kind of hidden. So like on the main brand where I'm selling gun parts and services and accessories, like you're not dealing with a hot chick in a bikini. There's no one in a bikini picking and packing parts, pinning and welding muzzle devices. It's all dudes, bro. So we keep it G-rated. Like we can appreciate like a aesthetic woman holding a gun in full cry combat uniform or whatever. It's still make believe, right? It's not real. Like this woman's not doing an offset infill over 12 clicks of rough terrain to shoot a bad guy or something. Like, no.
She's got the gear for it, which is what I really appreciate about Weapon Outfitters. Is like all of her kit is legit. The bikini maybe not, but she needs more warm layers. But aside from that.
Yeah, they're not going on a direct action raid to like Epstein Island or something. They're like the girlfriend at home, So it was,
yeah,
but I feel like I'm not being I'm trying not to insult my customers' intelligence with that. So I feel like some of my early customers were like, "Oh, I found you because I looked at your girls with guns thing, and like normally guns are like in those type of photos are terrible. The girl has a setup or gear setup that makes no sense, but I noticed that the gun was actually decent and like the gear was actually decent, and that was what I was trying to do. Because when I started, they would get skinny fat dudes with tomahawks and goatees and wrap around shades with their stupid guns to advertise stuff. That was kind of what I was competing against, and obviously I didn't want that. And what was it? If you have dudes in camo and like gear, I don't want like actors in camo and gear. I want legit dudes, but legit dudes generally don't want to pose for like a photo shoot. It's like
Not
no.
very conducive to the art of it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I think this was like a decent compromise. It's like it should be understood that it's fantasy and advertising, and I'm trying to appeal to the red-blooded man who fucking loves guns, either professionally or just personally. So I think I've done a pretty good job of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like, has that kind of been like a kind of a dimmer switch as things have grown? Like you mentioned, it was people were more finding you from the girls early on, and as you kind of grew and had like more and more legit services and grew what you as a company did, was that something that kind of got kicked to like the aesthetic of the brand, but not the front of the brand, if you get what I'm saying?
I would say that because we had to spin it off because I think just the photography side became its own thing, and it became enough where like we could basically have the Playboy of the tactical industry, when that Playboy has like a decent brand. But I just watched that documentary about the dark secrets of Playboy, and yeah, Playboy's actually fucked up. Like they waited till he died to like for all the allegations of all the bad shit he did to come out, and all the horrible things that happened at the Playboy Mansion. So obviously, I don't want to do that. But like I do have like a built-in safety valve in that I have to teach these women how to hold these guns realistically, how they work, safety, and if we have the time for it, I always try to like get them to the range and do live fire. So these women know how to shoot the guns. They could blast my ass if I was inappropriate for any reason. So that's like the general safety valve that I think my brand has that Playboy didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, you're actually you're making these women as independent as they can be. Like, all right, don't put the live mag in there.
Yeah. And my wife helps me with photo editing and stuff, and she also is like a good voice for like advocate for the models. Like, oh yeah, you should like do this for them. Like, you should have a separate changing room. You should have like bottled water for them at all times. Because she was a model and she got roofied when she was like 18 or something, and so because of that, we always make sure we have like fresh bottled water. Like we give the models privacy, blah blah blah, and it's a fully opt-in thing. Like if you're uncomfortable about modeling or shooting with guns for any reason, like you don't have to. We're not going to pressure you. Like it's a pretty big world out there, and I feel like your reputation builds on itself. So if you're like a trustworthy photographer and people like working with you, it becomes a lot easier to recruit. I think one LA model who I reached out to, she's got a crazy physique. She looks like Pamela Anderson in her prime, but she's all natural. Like she's just like a genetic outlier. But she's a nice lady, very nice lady. But she reached out to a photographer who knew people in Washington, and he happened to know like one of my exes who had modeled for me, and also I dated, and she put in a good word for me. So I thought that was great, because most people, their exes like talk shit about them, so like having an ex actually put in a good word, I thought that was that showed that I was doing things right, I thought.
Yeah, especially you deal with, by the sounds of it, a lot of models who aren't, from the tactical industry. But like what you tweet about a fair bit is kind of, it's becoming more and more common for models to want to do this kind of work and want to do something different, even if they have no kind of, background or leaning or interest in guns. There's just like the aesthetic of firearms is kind of
yes, absolutely
overcoming the cultural divide going on right now. Like, yep. What's that about?
Yeah, I mean, this is a funny term I just discovered, but apparently it's been trending for about a year. Is the term femcel? It's a play on the term incel, because incels.
What is that? I'm not like online enough to know what
Oh.
what does it mean?
Femcells. Oh boy, that's a funny concept. Well, we should bring it back to incels, right? Incels, it stands for involuntary celibate, and it's now become a big online community of like, guys who just can't find a life partner, can't get laid for whatever reason, and they have a huge community. Their memes are like hilarious. They're part of the cultural zeitgeist. Like they're a big part of the internet and meme culture in general now. And femcells are a woman who kind of try to ride on that wavelength of like of the creative side and the edgy side, and they're all over Tumblr, and they just like post like edgy girl art basically. And like I think some YouTuber like actually interviewed some actual femcells. It turns out like, oh, they have a boyfriend, or they can get laid at any time, but they just like the aesthetic, like it doesn't really mean a female incel. It kind of just means like a edgy artsy girl. And these edgy artsy girls, they love Lana Del Rey. They love girls with guns. They love girls with weapons in general, girls in nature, and they also love unapologetically beautiful women, because the mainstream culture, corporate ESG culture, has definitely waged war on anything edgy, anything with women who are like too attractive. So it's like rebellious to like a beautiful woman with a gun now.
Yeah. It's like some image that really shouldn't exist in modern culture, and yet there's still a demand for it.
Exactly. So I understand that there's also Christian and religious people who their aesthetic spectrum, like for them, it's super triggering. So they do not want to see like a girl in a bikini, because there's that pastor who like approached like 12 high school girls in bikinis and was like, man, this is pornographic, this is fucked up. And I was like, whoa, bro, like you're really projecting yourself, sir. But I understand for him, he was like a former porn addict, so for him it was triggering. So I was like, that's kind of a you problem, but still, like within that culture, which is a sizable portion of gun culture, they don't want to see that, So
it's a weird mix. Like you've got kind of the big global war on terror thing was, a lot of young guys heading out to the desert and loving the imagery of hot girls with guns. And then you've also got you come home and maybe these guys grow up a little bit, and the same guys who might have been buying calendars from you a few years ago are now going like, harumph, this should not be seen by anyone. And I feel like the culture has done kind of a weird swing back to more.
Oh, it's like, absolutely becoming
more socially.
Yeah.
It's a weird spot to be in. I think as a group and as a kind of team, like myself and Nathan, we talk about this with people every now and then. Like, you shouldn't be a slave to your desires and all that kind of thing. But then at the same time, like, I think when it comes to like enforcing that kind of thing on culture at large, like you're not gonna fix society. It's gonna swing back and clap you on the ass when everyone's like, well, why can't we have that? And it seems like dog chasing his own tail, with this kind of thing. Like, I feel like if we go super Puritan, then this stuff's just gonna swing right back around in the future anyway. So I feel like we're about to repeat the 90s with the way people are going.
Yeah.
I think it's indicative of another, and like my feelings towards marketing and being advertised to in like with women or with anything else is basically the same, which is like, I'm not going to be like I am immune to propaganda, but I just am not online enough to really be privy to any marketing. I'm sure it works on me to some degree. I don't know. It's like this weird kind of, I don't even want to call it backwards. It's just like, it's the same kind of strange cancel culture bullshit that we have over nothing. And it used to be more deserved. Like, hey, like this person said AR-15s are terrorist weapons and they're a dipshit. And now it's anything between like the kind of marketing you do and like, hey, that guy is running a micro rig in one of his photos. That guy is an idiot. Hey, that guy's using an LPVO. We all know that 2.5 to 10s are the new meta. That guy's an idiot. Like, people just are really addicted to being angry over things that really, really don't matter. In my opinion, like, most of this stuff just does not matter.
I've kind of understand the desire to go back to Puritan because, like, I look at the same stuff every other gun guy looks at on the internet. So, like the religious memes, the trad memes, I actually
Yeah.
enjoy that community and that culture a lot. And
Yeah, like I think it's doing like a lot of good for people, and there are of course like places where it gets a little bit silly, or it can even get counterproductive if you're just like policing yourself all the time. But at the same time, there is a lot of renewed accountability for yourself, like really want to strive to be the best you and live a healthy, balanced lifestyle. Like telling young guys not to pursue like body count, but to have like a good relationship with someone and raise a good family and all that kind of thing, like unplug from your addictions and base level desires. Like that shit is great and I love to see it. And then you have like the policing of how other people are living their lives. It's like, dude, you can at the end of the day, in my opinion, you can only really help yourself and live the good life as an example to others. And if they don't want that, I mean, God help them, like you can't drag everyone to success and happiness. And I don't think you should really live by example and do good for other people and leave it there, But
Wise words from BR hates feds.
Hey,
Yeah.
Feds are the ones trying to stop me from living my life.
Yes.
But-
I also hate feds, so I get it.
Yeah, I feel like the reactionary growth it's because of how gross things have gotten in the culture war. Like, obviously I love sex and beautiful women, but you see how much like sex is being pushed in inappropriate places, how
Yeah.
everything's getting pornified. Like it's too much, like somehow like with the whole thing with like schools and sex education and pushing weird agendas, like I feel like the anti-gun left, like their overlap with the sex weirdo left is pretty strong, and that's probably why there's like a huge growth in more conservative Puritan views. And I totally understand that.
Yeah, like I can definitely see where it's coming from. It's not like it's some freak out over nothing, because it's genuinely shoved in your face everywhere you go. And if you're not taking a more proactive kind of outlook on your freedom, and you're just doing what the majority of Red America is doing, where you're like, well, my school, like my schools and my community should be teaching kids my values. If you're not taking the more proactive approach and being like, I should be teaching my kids values and teaching my kids full stop, well, you're going to have to plug into the wider system, which is not on your side and kind of wants to stomp you out of existence. So
Yeah.
if you're not thinking bigger, you're gonna get crushed. And I can understand the feelings they have with being like, we need to take control. It's like, you need to sign out and let them crash this thing, because
it becomes a big picture society type thing. It's like, where do we want things to go? So for me, I feel like my big mission has always been to make guns look cool, look awesome, look desirable. I mean, advertising obviously uses beautiful people to accomplish this all the time. The Marlboro Man was not some fat ass neckbeard with like the stupid haircut. You know what I mean? Like the Marlboro Man looked like a man, right? So if you're gonna do girls with guns photography, well, the girl better be hot. One, right? The gun better look good. The girl better look like she knows what she's doing with guns. And I feel like the HK lady wasn't attacking me per se, but
oh no,
maybe she was. I don't care.
I wonder if she kept her job.
Maybe. I mean,
if for whatever reason she's listening to this, or you know who she was, we should get her on.
No,
well, her name's Angela. She's on LinkedIn. But I have sympathy for her as as a professional. So I was like, I don't want her to lose her job. And then like people are like, that's a pussy take. It's like, yeah, being forgiving is kind of a pussy.
All the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't make them necessarily bad people.
Yeah, and people were like, oh, she should get fired because she's a professional. I was like, that's also reasonable, because that was a huge blunder for someone who's not supposed to make blunders. Like her job was to make the gun brand look good. So yeah, I'm like 50-50. Like I kind of like on a personal level, I'm like, yeah, she doesn't deserve to be fired for, was a stupid mistake.
Yeah.
But she also
They
kind
need
of
to not
deserves
be
to be
political.
fired because it was her literal job to not fuck up
To
in
not make
that way.
stupid,
Yeah,
yeah, like
don't attract too much attention to us. We still have more G36s to sell to the Sinaloan cartel.
Hey, they're very touchy about this stuff. We want to keep a good reputation for them.
But yeah, I mean, this is why for Weapon Outfitters, nobody has access to the social media but me. Previously employees have said, "Hey, you should give us access because sometimes you get ADHD and don't post every day." Like one, that's not necessarily good because the algorithm changes how it measures stuff literally all the time. Like sometimes my style is rewarded, sometimes it's not. And furthermore, I don't trust anybody else to handle it because if you fuck it up, I have to fire you. I have to make a big statement like, no. Like I prefer to not fire you for goofing off on the internet, Like
Roy, you should give me the passwords. I want to post something in your Twitter.
Oh God. Yeah.
I found a really interesting picture of
something.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh no. What, a Chris Chan photo?
I'm not going to continue. Not on this good Christian show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Roy, please never give Nathan your social media passwords.
You should absolutely give me your passwords. I'm a responsible citizen, and I will only do good things with it.
Yeah.
Well, with this kind of shift to because there has been kind of I guess a touch up on your part with being a bit more sensitive to this I don't know what to call it, but new outlook in the community, this growing outlook of more Puritan values. When do you think that you started to notice this kind of coming into the culture for the first time?
2 years ago, maybe. Yeah, why? Maybe 2 years ago. Was that related to like Biden getting elected? I don't know. But I think
like people just trying to wanting to try a different kind of conservatism or something because we lost, all right, well we have to swing this way now. I don't know.
I don't know if it's that. I think it's more just a natural reaction from like the proliferation of porn and how it's affected culture and personal relationships and people being unable to become intimate with one another. Yeah, I mean, talking to like Twitter thinkers, like, crap, I don't even know his username, but he's the Skull guy. Anyways, he's like,
Reaper?
I think it was like Skull the Bjorn or something. He basically is a cultural commentator.
I don't know Twitter. I'm sorry. As much as Paige tries to push me to use it, I refuse.
You should use Twitter. It is so fun. Yeah.
Roy, I would sooner
tickle
myself.
You've gotten it. You made an account because me and Lucas bullied you into it. But
no, Paige made an account. I have not even touched it.
That's Paige.
Paige made the account. Is she posting on it? I haven't checked.
Yeah, I think I just need to give you like a primer on the sub communities on Twitter because like
they're won't use it.
Insane and funny.
Won't use it. Absolutely not. I will eat a bullet. I will eat several.
No. Like, see, here's the thing. Twitter, you learn things are happening way quicker than you would on Instagram. Like, Instagram is, I mean, for one, gradually getting more and more censored, and so you kind of see less and less of what's happening in the industry.
Yes,
but
BR, that implies that I want to learn things.
I just want to live in a bubble and head in the sand. No, like
if it's important, someone will DM me about it.
Well, Twitter bitches about Ted Kaczynski. They all love Uncle Ted on Twitter, so you'd have a lot of fans there.
I'm sure that they do. My views are my own. They are untainted by the outside world.
Oh yeah, okay, I'm sure.
Yes,
I'm sure.
I don't even know how to read, guys. I'm not going to learn just to use Twitter.
Yeah. But what was it? I think it was like the Twitter thought leaders were like, oh, the millennials were kind of like the generation that still like their attitudes towards porn versus Gen Z's attitude is very different because Gen Z basically got bombarded with it from an early age.
Yeah, like more accessible than ever.
Yeah, so it kind of really warped a lot of people's brains. Like, like if you have like instant access hardcore pornography at any time when you're like 12 years old, and like it'll mess you up, man. Guys and girls alike, I think.
Well, and a lot of people, like, you see it from the Gen Z people, whenever that kind of conversation comes up, people be like, yeah, I was first exposed to it unwittingly, like, did not seek it out at, like, 12, and you're like, damn. Yeah, no wonder this generation kind of has a different view on it. Like, it used to be kind of, finding magazines or,
VHS tapes, yeah. Like,
yeah, like, kind of sneaky. Now it's like, well, if you have internet access anywhere on the planet, it takes,
a
like...
phone, right? So
Yeah.
Because I remember when I got my iPhone, like, I think 3 in like 2006 or something, and I was having lunch with my office mates at Nokia Siemens, and I was like, "Oh, check this out! I can go to Pornhub on my phone. This is amazing! It's crazy, right?" And people are like, "Whoa, that's so crazy!" And now it's like business as usual, and
Yeah.
it's way too much, So
Yeah. I remember back in the day, I'd have to accidentally find my dad's old Playboys that he hid behind the National Geographic.
Yeah.
We're not going to dig into that one too much.
Oh my god. Yeah, and then social media changing dating, right? Like dating online used to be for weirdos. Now it's like the only way you can socialize and meet a person of the other sex. And I think it's these cultural forces outside of guns that are really kind of changing people's attitudes within the gun community. I don't think it's the gun community itself. I think it's society at large is changing, and not for the better. Like social media is definitely a double-edged sword. Yeah, I think the way you fix that though is the same way you fix. You prepare your populace to fight against fifth-generation warfare. You teach them media literacy. You make sure they're high IQ. You give them a culture of accountability. And you make sure they're educated. But guess what America invested in? It definitely wasn't their education system.
Yeah, we chose the Prussian style because we like good tax cattle over here, but unfortunately. But I mean, Gen Z, I think everyone talks a lot of shit about them, but they're pretty fucking clever. They're very self-aware. Like, obviously, there's a lot of kids who are gonna, sign up and eat the bugs and all of that good stuff. But the ones who are switched on are like the most switched on generation I've seen, like, in history, really. Like, some of the stuff you see them come out with, you're like, oh wow, you guys are like 16 years old, and you're like, yeah, this is propaganda, this is to control us, this is to make us dumb. You're like, oh my god. like it's just common knowledge. They're like, oh yeah, dad, you didn't know Facebook lies to you every day and manipulates your anger? Like, what?
Yeah, that's true. Gen Z basically has all the information available to them. Only problem is bad information also gets to them. So it's like it's a battle for their attention, their airwaves. I feel like Elon Musk buying Twitter honestly was like a huge good thing. Like, otherwise all the major social media platforms would be completely controlled by that element of society. I don't even know how to describe it. The neoliberals, the globalists.
Yeah, we've seen it, the last 20 years, the internet gradually being sterilized from kind of like a very Wild West sort of setup to, everything is like a squeaky clean, corporate controlled environment now. It's like, it used to be like nuts, like absolutely uncontrollable. And so that was a nice little disruption. I'm still hesitant to call it like, the internet being decentralized or anything. We'll see what he does with it, because who knows.
Eventually, Tor will probably become the real internet, where everyone has to use a VPN and everyone has to use Tor browser.
Didn't they try and make VPNs illegal not too long ago? Is that still a thing?
Mm-hmm.
Is that still going through?
Yep. They tried that. I don't know if I don't think it went through, thank God. But a single VPN's not enough too. You need at least 2 layered is what I've heard from like InfoSec people.
Well, yeah, I mean, nowadays, God only knows how you keep all that stuff secure, because there's like a billion ways to stay ahead of you or to jack into your stuff. I mean, you have to really know your shit these days to have anything quote unquote private.
Yeah, I mean, I understand people's trying to do that, and I applaud them for that for sure. I just don't
Yeah.
have that option as a FFL SOT. Like, yep, the government gets to raid my place once a year, you know? So got to dot
Yeah.
my I's, cross my T's, obey all gun laws. But, you know, for you outlaws and scofflaws, like, uh, wow. Like, no further comment.
Yeah. keep doing your thing.
That does bring us kind of organically to my next point, where I'd like to thank today's sponsor of the video, NordVPN. Protect your privacy from prying eyes with military-grade encryption. Buy NordVPN today using the promo code in the description for 55% off 1 year's of subscription. That's a lie. We're
Nathan,
not sponsored by NordVPN at all.
they
Oh,
don't pay us.
dang.
They
No,
don't
no,
pay
that
us.
literally never happened. I don't even use Nord. I use Proton.
Yeah.
I just
Somebody
wanted
was
to do
saying
a bit.
Proton had been compromised by the French or
Oh.
something. The French
Oh
Oh my god,
Oh,
everything's
that's-
fucking compromised these days.
That's as bad as it gets, compromised by the
Oh,
French. Disgusting.
there was like some French environmental protester violated the law, so the French asked Proton for his information, and Proton gave it up or something.
I
sure
thought
thing.
Nord
that guy.
was giving up information, which is why I actually didn't get and never got Nord. I went with Proton because supposedly they did the opposite of that, so that'd be very disappointing. Because I paid 13 euro. What's euro a month to use Nord. I mean Proton. Sorry.
Yeah, I think their VPN might be okay. It was they had to give up their info to the email because they owned up to it and they defended it. They were like, "Hey, man, like 3 countries demanded this information, and you know we're still housed in Switzerland, so we have to, you know, obey laws. Like Switzerland's not a lawless place."
Yeah.
Hey, it's
Yeah.
a damn shame.
But yeah, I would love to be a Swiss citizen. They're basically their government, their form of government's like how the United States was supposed to be. It's like really a federation of cantons, aka states, and the states have their own rules and laws and all that stuff. And whoever is the president of Switzerland, they just rotate through. Like it's a really weird federated system. But you know, they have super strict immigration as a result.
Yeah. They're like, all right, we don't want any of you guys coming in and not understanding this, so we're just gonna chill and do our thing.
There was that whiny bitch who complained about like the Swiss cows having loud cowbells, and like her first few times trying to be a Swiss citizen, they blocked her ass. I think eventually she got in because she's a really persistent Karen. But I'm really glad they made the effort to be like, yeah, we don't need this type of bullshit, lady. Like,
So, we talked a little bit recently about kind of you wanted to like put together some brand guidelines and stuff. Is there anything that prompted that, or like kind of solidifying your brand after? I mean, you've been doing this a while. Like what you said, 13 years.
yeah, I think 2010 is when it officially started. Yeah.
So has it just been kind of word of mouth your brand so far, like
pretty
in the
much.
company?
Yeah, because I was the photographer and the editor, and I basically did everything, right? But now it's like administrative bloat kind of fucks me up. Like I got so many state taxes I got to do, so much paperwork with like payroll, and you know, like staying fully legal, making sure that like I don't go to jail if I get audited because I talk way too much political shit, right? Like yeah,
You're going to have
bloat
HK
made it-
hitmen showing up at the door.
Well, yeah, then I'd be screwed, huh? The Germans. Yeah, if I see any suspicious Nordic-looking people, I'll definitely armor up. Yeah. Yeah, back in the day, I did everything, but now it's like I got people helping me with graphic design, writing emails, you know, editing photos. So I needed to like go more than I need to have something more solid than just my feeling or my gut. So I had to define what Weapon Outfitters was first. Like, who are we trying to appeal to? You know, who actually buys high-end weapon components? And you'd be surprised as to how many total weebs and nerds do. Like, I guarantee you, weebs buy more night vision and weapon lasers than FUDs do. You know.
It's such a funny contrast because like you see the proper like rural lads who are gonna be actually out there in the sticks, in the Appalachian Mountains sneaking around and stuff. If someone were to kick off, who need all of the night vision and all of that kind of kit, they're not the ones necessarily buying it because they're broke as hell. But you see the weebs who have it like a sick AR setup and night vision kind of hung over the whole LED gaming computer setup without a scratch on it, and you're like, what? What? This guy has like a PEC 15?
Yeah, they work like a tech job or something, right?
Yeah, and they have the money to get all the cool stuff.
Yeah, because like I didn't realize how much of a disparity there was in like economic stuff until recently, when I drove through the South for about 2 weeks with my wife, trying to like find a new home. But it was like I think Georgia is definitely surging right now economically, but that also doesn't bode well for long-term politics. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
What kind of long-term politics?
Oh, like demographic shift. Like if you bring in
Oh,
a bunch
okay.
of tech workers, like you did to Northern Virginia is going to become like New York City. It's going to become anti-gun. So if you bring in a bunch of tech people for your big corporations into Alpharetta or Atlanta's metro area, eventually those people will vote blue, and they might be like blue-toting gun people, like blue. What was the old term? Like blue dog Democrats or something?
Yeah.
But if Biden says he wants to ban guns, that's it. It's like it's an unfortunate binary. It's like in European countries or Asian countries, like you have massive coalitions and like fucking 50 political parties, but realistically, we're stuck with 2 in America, and it generally creates gridlock, which is great. Inefficient gridlocked government, that's generally actually a good thing, right? Because you want less
they're not doing
government.
anything? Sweet.
Yeah, like it was built in, like having three branches of government was, so they all check each other. Trying to like make executive powers have everything. Well, shit, that's a terrible idea. Like Obama expanded executive powers way too much, and then liberals finally admitted that when Trump got elected. So yeah, bring it back to like Congress making laws, please.
Wait, that's what they're meant to do?
Yeah, that's what they're supposed to do.
I like it the best when everyone is in gridlock all the time and literally nothing gets done.
Yeah, that's like the ideal form of American government.
So where it is
to make it
ineffective.
smaller.
Yeah.
So you don't want a gridlocked government that grows every year and gets huge too and burns a bunch of money either, which is kind of what's happening. So
yeah, no, I want like 12 homeless people in a room, and we pay them with rotisserie chickens, and they just throw shit at each other, and that's it. They have no executive power at all, and that is the only form of Congress that I want.
Well, that nation state is gonna get conquered for its oil pretty quickly. So
that's fine. It was very cheap to run, so
the hobo nation state is not gonna survive. Yeah, they're gonna learn Mandarin.
That's what you think.
Yeah.
Little did you know, it's the hobo with a shotgun state.
Oh,
so.
God. Yeah, but was it? Having like the southern states surge in terms of economics, I think is going to happen, just because like the coastal urban cities where everything's dominating, like it's just so expensive to do business there, and I think people would want to avoid getting stabbed in the neck while they're eating dinner with like their daughter. Like that happened in
generally.
LA. Yeah. But yeah, so I think it becomes a positive feedback cycle too. As more companies move to Charleston or Atlanta, other companies follow, and you get a network effect. There's a reason why in most cities, like you have a finance district, a fashion district, a diamond district if your city does diamond trade and shit like that. It's because like, you want the network effect of all the suppliers and all the vendors being at the same place, all the talent being at the same place. So Seattle's kind of like the programmer network place, right? Because if you get fired from Amazon, you can go to Microsoft. You get fired from Microsoft, you can go to Boeing. If you get from Boeing, there's like a bazillion small companies that want your skills. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're kind of in this odd spot now with a lot of the gun stuff where it's like, okay, well, where is the quote unquote safe haven? Like
Tennessee.
So many people are migrating. Tennessee,
Idaho, a couple others.
Yeah, Texas is
Hmm.
pretty good, but I'm afraid of Texas's demographic shift, same as Georgia. But maybe Texas state law can protect it. But yeah, it's just hard to say. So I got to find a place to get the fuck out. I mean, all these
Yeah,
gun
your
companies
assault weapon
being,
ban is worse than California's.
yeah, yeah, and maybe the Supreme Court case will save our ass, but yeah, it takes time, even if it's a clear-cut case. Like I think the example that Washington gun law brought up was Brown v. Board of Education. Like the Supreme Court ruled on it, and it didn't become an issue until 3 years later in Tennessee, where they actually had to fight it. They had to test it. Like the law becoming the law doesn't really become the law until you've fought it, basically.
No, 100%. I mean, we're seeing that, and I think we're gonna keep on seeing that with all of these so-called 2A sanctuary states and cities and counties. It's like, okay, well, let's see what happens when push comes to shove. Like, are you actually gonna be a sanctuary, or is that just a nice label for election years?
Yeah, yeah, true, true, true. And what was it? One thing I saw about Tennessee, I was studying their real estate market. And did you know that Tennessee is less affordable relative to their local income than like Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Miami? It's like Tennessee's like the most expensive state in the union relative to the local economy right now. It is hot. It is
Huh.
Yeah.
a hopping place right now. So I think Austin finally cooled down, but yeah, Tennessee's blowing the fuck up. I don't know why other people are moving there. Gun industry people, I understand, but why are other people trying to flood Tennessee? Get the
it
fuck out, Californians!
it's so curious. Like, everyone, I mean, just the whole country at the minute. I don't think there are really any industries or even like kind of cultures that don't have some kind of, you know, do I stay here and try and change things, or do I flee to somewhere that's gonna be better long term? Like that's going through a lot of people's minds. There's never been this much migration and this much like, vote with your feet kind of thing going on in the US. Like I, I don't think historically ever. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but it is. We have more means to do so and more cause to do so than really ever before.
For sure.
People like just seeing the Californian migration, the New York migration, how COVID shifted everyone up from like killing cities off. It is just absolutely nuts seeing it, and God knows what this country is going to look like when all that kind of what it's going to look like in 10 years once people have kind of settled in
Yeah,
and made their choices. But this
yeah,
country is shifting in ways we won't really know the full extent of for some time.
yeah. I like Peter Zeihan's broad analysis. He gets stuff wrong at the tactical level all the time, but his like big picture analysis of global politics and also U.S. domestic politics and flow is super interesting. Like he believes that Houston is like America's future number one city because it has access to industry, water transport, food,
Mm.
access to the coast, people, and like transport, all that stuff. But I've heard way too much terrible things about the weather in Houston and the driving, so probably not for me.
You don't fancy yourself a Texan, man?
I do like Texas, some elements of Texas, man. I do honestly like Austin. I mean, I went 20
Hmm.
years ago, but
It was cool back then.
yeah, I don't know how great it is now. Like because like when too many tech people move to a cool place, like they find a cool place, they move to the cool place. Too much of that, it kills off all the artists and what made it cool in the
Mm.
first place.
Yeah, yeah, you get that kind of they water it down, like, and then you just end up with that kind of tasteless gentrification rather than the creative spirit behind it.
Yeah, because it's too expensive for actually fun and interesting people to live there.
Yeah.
You don't have to work for whatever tech company like Dell down there, So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And also, there's the whole cultural aspect of a tactical Playboy brand. Like that would
Yeah,
work
yeah.
in Austin. I don't know if it would work in like the deep South.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably
What
not
do you
like
guys do?
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
I don't know fucking America, guys. Like, I'm a snow Mexican.
Well, Arkansas is like, and I'm sorry, people. I feel like Arkansas is a particularly unsexy state. Like the rural stuff, very nice,
Oh.
very tasteful. Like you can find a nice spot out there. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not sexy.
I know basically nothing about Arkansas other than Bill Clinton helped cover up the murders of some children by the drug addict cops there like 20 years ago, and that's it.
Oh my god.
Oh no, Arkansas. If you talk to Arkansas natives, when you should go visit it. It's actually interesting. Oh yeah, it's also dangerous. Like,
I hear meth is a big thing.
yeah. But Bill Clinton's involvement with like intelligence agencies when he was like a governor there, and like the secret airstrips they had for like.
Oh yeah, the running
stuff.
of drugs.
What?
Oh, BR, have you never heard about this?
I mean, like I said, I've driven through Arkansas once, and it seemed sleepy, and that was about all I kind of registered.
Dude, right after we finish, go and watch the Wendigoon video, Kids on the Tracks. It is.
Oh yes, you did talk about this.
Yes.
Previously.
That's very much. It's a good watch.
That's Arkansas.
Yeah, because it's a small state. It's not hard to meet like people who know things there, and like the Arkansas thing, where like people mysteriously die, like if they're involved with the Clintons, like it's a real, it's a real thing, man. Like it's too many coincidences. I feel like nobody around me dies randomly, like commits suicide.
Yeah, no one around me decides to drive into a wall going 120 miles an hour
in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah, that just doesn't happen.
Wendigoon is too educational. We got to protect that man. We got to give him like nation state level fucking protection.
Next time he comes on, I'm going to ask him to just like give a full statement about how he's not suicidal and he has no plans to start no wall.
Please at length describe how much you enjoy life and how you plan on living for many, many decades to come.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think this also comes back to the 5th generation warfare thing, where like, the sneaky people, they realize you can't just kill loose ends. So instead they just flood the airwaves with like insane conspiracy theories to like cover up. They're trying to, what was the term he used? They're trying to discredit conspiracy theories.
Yeah, it's genuinely the Kremlin playbook.
Yeah.
Discredit everything by just filling the air with so much noise that no one knows what's true or false anymore.
Yeah. So this is like one reason why meme lords are so powerful, because they're anonymous and they use humor, So like I think meme lords, I mean, if they could be improved in any way, they could be used more to hold more people accountable. But I feel like they're an uncontrollable force of nature. You can't tell them what to do. You can't direct them. They're like a great barometer for the culture and the zeitgeist. Yeah.
Often chaotic neutral, just kind of like taking swings where semi-appropriate and kind of humbling people every now and then. Like that's a big thing in the gun community. Is it just takes like a couple of popular meme lords to take a couple of swings and be like, yeah, that's bullshit, and you guys are idiots. It's like he has a point. Like this is kind of stupid. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, yep, that got clubbed back down. That's not just the industry standard, because nowadays a guy can stand on a soapbox and be toe to toe with like Glock or Sig or whatever it might be. And be like, hey guys, this is dumb as fuck. I'm gonna ratio you now and show you up with like, I've got a bourbon and coke in hand and I'm making assholes of you.
Yeah, true.
Like
true.
low effort.
So, I always try to curry the meme lord's favor, at least not like,
that's intelligent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what meme lords are really doing is they're basically the aesthetic police. Like, is this against the community norms? Is this against is this a crime against aesthetics? And I try to avoid violating that I try to avoid committing crimes against aesthetics with my work for sure. So like some people are
That's a quote right there.
yeah, the crimes against aesthetics are a big deal because like I won't name names, but there's this gun industry guy, who everyone like makes fun of because of his use of girls with guns and stuff. And when he was dating like an age
Paul Harrell.
inappropriate, what? Oh, never mind.
Paul Harrell.
Paul, no, he's a saint.
I just pulled that name out of my ass. Everyone loves Paul Harrell.
Yeah, but when this random dude was dating like a girl who's age inappropriate, everyone was like, "Ugh, gross." But then that same girl goes off and dates like a guy who's even older, but he's a jacked, handsome military guy and a celebrity, and everyone's like, "Oh, good for you, girl!" Like, so I realized like, oh, the first case with that dude, it was a crime against aesthetics. He wasn't handsome enough. Like, it just didn't pass the cringe test, Yeah, so it's like if my work doesn't pass the cringe test, I have to admit it and be like, yeah, this is cringe, delete, disavow.
Is that something that comes up, like, do you ever finish a shoot and you're like, oh, this isn't going to bode well with, like...
Yes.
How often does that happen?
Not often now, because, but I realize that I have to learn through doing. I've shelved entire photo shoots because like, this looks too cringe. This looks too stupid. Or this model looks too young. Like she's 25, but her hair's
but it's gonna be more damage than it's worth. Like just for the expenses and stuff. It's like
if it doesn't pass the cringe test, you have to delete it. And like artists can have this problem, or they're too self-aware or too insecure, or they're too cocky and they're like, fuck you, you don't like it, just go look at someone else's thing then. Like it's a fine line to balance where you want to be able to create without the fear of judgment, but you also have to like understand like your audience and your own vision. Like, does this work for you, especially for a commercial side? Like this is something that they talk about with modern art. Like if you create it for the commercial value, does it still count as art? I'm of the practical side where like I think advertising can be art if it's done well enough.
I agree.
But like some people are like, it's compromised from the beginning. Like it's not genuine art or whatever. But yeah, that's like one of those woo-woo high-level debates of, but what is art that is actually kind of useful for me, at least?
No, I think that's a big and important point to discuss, because like being of a graphic design background, I went to the same building as a lot of the more woo-woo kind of artists who are like, it's like what you're studying isn't a moneymaker. You're doing it from like a hope that someday you'll be somebody and you'll be living off of someone's dime paying you to make magnificent collections and stuff. And that's very different from, I also love and appreciate art and creativity, but I'm much more utilitarian in how I approach it. Like I think something can be beautiful and have a great aesthetic to it, but also have a utility to it in that it's able to spread information, or it's able to, sell a product. And I don't think there's anything like, I think something that sells a product can be just as meaningful or beautiful as something that's just, all high and lofty and purely conceptual. It's really down to execution and, like if it impacts enough people that it's, if something's creative and it impacts people, surely that's art,
Yeah. This is like one of those debates where like I would like to have like my annoying artsy friends actually around, because they would be able to like discuss those type of concepts more in depth. But I'm not educated enough in art stuff. I just appreciate it and then I try to create it. And I'm very thankful for people who think that I make good stuff. I would say that my advertising took on a life of its own, and it became its own product after a while.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, just the calendars and kind of the Weapon Outfitters After Dark, like all of that stuff is very much its own thing. It's not necessarily being used to advertise. It's kind of its own project a lot of the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like because I'll use guns I have nothing to sell you with. Like,
yeah.
36. You can buy the sling. Please buy the sling. You know, or like M249, yeah, the sling again. I got the sling and the sight,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah. But yeah, that's because of the art, I'm able to afford a lot more for my creativity stuff and for the advertising stuff. Yeah, Patreon really saved my ass, man. So if you guys are on Patreon, check us out. WO After Dark.
Like, how long were you doing this as strictly photography, like a love of photography and girls and guns, and when did it cross over to being more of a business?
Oh, I would say, okay, so from 2010 to 2014, I was learning photography. I was trying to not suck. Some of my early
Mm.
stuff, terrible. I didn't know the most basic theories about lighting or color. They're really bad, man. I think 2014 is when I finally stopped sucking as a photographer. And then I think that's the year I shot like my first nude model. And, you know, she was like Playboy, Cyber Playmate of the Year, Olivia Preston.
Mm.
You know, I couldn't use the nude stuff for modeling, so I created a Tumblr. I mean, I could use the nude stuff for advertising, so I had a secret Tumblr, which I did not really tell anyone about because I wanted people to find out about it through word of mouth and appreciation of the aesthetic. So from like 2014 to 2017, Weapon Outfitters After Dark was a free secret project, and then we got booted off of Tumblr because Tumblr went woke, if you recall. I don't remember exactly when, but I think is
Was that
that
when they
20.
got bought out? I remember
Yeah,
they
we got
got bought
bought
out
out by
by
Melissa.
Verizon.
No, Yahoo. Yahoo bought it for like billions of dollars.
Yeah, and then killed it.
Yeah, because they tried to make it like advertising friendly and family friendly, and that's when Twitter got crazy too. Because all the psycho losers from Tumblr went to Twitter.
That tracks. That tracks very much.
So all the tech space shenanigans, it has significant down culture effects. When people are like, oh, this woke bullshit at like, colleges and Tumblr won't matter. It's like, well, do you still think that's true now that these people have congealed and organized on Twitter? Like, it's obviously not true, man. Like, shit that happens on the internet matters. Like, this ain't 1980, like, Mr. Boomer. Like, wake up. Anyways, getting back to Weapon Outfitters After Dark history. Yeah, I got booted off Tumblr, and it was so expensive because like we try so hard with the advertising to like the photography to make it beautiful and look good. So it takes a lot of time and money to like take models out into the mountains and stuff. I just started the Patreon hoping to just recoup my costs, but yeah, it ended up being like more successful than the retail brand at certain times, especially during the Trump slump. So yeah, I'm very thankful for all the patrons of the arts.
Well, it's a hell of a thing to do both. Like, you often talk about how like working in this industry selling gun parts is like very slim profit margins, and it's like you see a lot of these big brands who you would assume are like just crushing. It's like, dude, we are scraping by, especially with how volatile things are. Like, has it ever been like particularly scary to run? Especially living operating out of Washington. Like, has it been kind of questionable if next year you're still going to be doing your thing?
Oh yeah, for sure. But like I talk about this openly with my employees, the challenges. And it's like worst case scenario, we're all part time and we're all going to start driving Uber or working at Target part time or Starbucks part time for the benefits and shit like that. But thankfully, we haven't had to yet, and we've always scraped by. I'm sure it gets annoying for them sometimes, like because sometimes you just want to hear like comforting words from your boss that things are going to be just fine. But I think it's the opposite, man. I don't want to be like lied to and then get blindsided. Like I want people to know like the risks that we face and the downsides so they do not get blindsided. So they save every dollar or, at least spend responsibly. Because I think a recession's coming. Everyone does. Like the headwinds from the economic and monetary policy are coming home to roost, right? We've had like emergency monetary policy for more than a decade. It started in 2008. I was at that time I had a broken foot from my failed army bid, and I was a security guard walking 8 miles a day on a foot with an undiagnosed stress fracture. That fucking sucked.
Nice.
Like pain retains, and like everyone who works for me, like they were either in the army or they were like too young, like they didn't feel the pressure of 2008. So yeah, we'll definitely do everything we can to survive the coming recession.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, especially in this industry where it's like also artificially like being impacted. Yeah, you're being artificially impacted by all sorts of weird laws and regulations on top of surviving like economic catastrophe after economic catastrophe like the rest of everyone. So
Yeah, general macroeconomics hurts everybody. But I like using computers and cars, which are my other interests, as a gauge. Like listening to discussions in those spaces about what they think is happening in the economy. One of my friends, he makes big rig transport trucks for Kenworth. So he's thinking that it's still cruising along for now, but there's inertia. Like the 2008 collapse didn't really hit me till like 2010. So everything takes time to like shake out.
you hear that, guys? It's literally the meme. It's things might be scary now, but they're only gonna get worse. Just gotta buckle in. I mean, genuinely, but
yeah. So guns are in a weird space in that you need guns when society is completely collapsed, but from now till then, there's a lot of meals to be had, a lot of mouths to be fed. Like how many guns do you really need? Like when you're unemployed and hungry, like it's gonna be hard for people to say.
yeah, like I think that's been like a big impact on the culture too. Like you've seen people go from having like 6 AR setups and maybe 2 have an optic, 1 has a sling. If you're lucky, 1 has a light that's serviceable. And nowadays people have like 1 or 2 ARs for like 2 very different roles that are like optic, light, sling, squared away. People are they're getting a little bit slimmer on their spending, but trending more intelligent.
Yeah.
That's definitely the culture changing. Like people getting more intelligent and actually shooting their guns, because that's a big problem with the gun industry, is that guns are extremely durable goods. It is really hard to shoot out a gun. And furthermore, people don't even actually shoot their guns for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Life's in the way, ammo's too expensive, they don't have the time. Or maybe I feel like most people aren't as gun autistic as people like me and my friends are. Because I remember I used to drive 4 hours to a match, shoot it, and then drive 4 hours back home. Like that was like the level of dedication I had to my love of firearms, and I realized that's kind of unusual. Like I don't think many gun owners are willing to do that. Much, even shooting a match in the town they live in, they won't do for whatever reason.
Oh yeah, I mean, by and large, I'm sure the vast majority of AR owners at a push get like 500 rounds through a year. And I'm sure most of that is standing idle, shooting a target at most 100 feet away.
Yeah.
Just mag dumping in the trash and call it a day rather than running drills and doing all that stuff. And it's changing. It's definitely changing.
Dude,
but
a
that
lot of
is
the people
still...
I know, they didn't shoot at all. Like,
they just own it?
Yeah.
But this is why the stuff that you guys do with like digestible short information is super important. And this is also why Nathan needs to get on Twitter. Because Twitter as a fucking platform is all about digestible information. Sure, you can pay more and write essays on fucking Twitter, which is...
But no one's reading them.
Yeah, no one's fucking reading them, bro. Like, if you're going to write an essay, write a thread, and each post in the thread needs to have a point. It's super digestible. It is a great way of sending information, So
Roy,
you got to do it. You got to have to do it.
I've prepared a response to that, and my response is no.
Oh, come on,
man. Well, yeah,
Facebook's
you
over.
don't even have
Get
to.
off Facebook. Get off.
I haven't been on Facebook in like 6 years, so you're too late on that
Instagram's kind
one.
of over too, though.
It
Instagram's
really
trending
is.
towards being over. Like they go so hard against anything gun now. Like, oh my god.
Yeah, seeing blurry guns on my timeline, I was like, okay, this is. I see where this is going. It's
Yeah.
like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, because what was it? Instagram. Like one way I kind of dodged Instagram was with sexy chicks with guns, but obviously they hate that now too. So
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
oh, you're not just doing the usual Instagram thing. You're doing a little bit more. Okay.
Well, I have another response to you, which is the Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race.
That's true. That's true.
Oh yeah, what was it? Ted Kaczynski's so freaking popular right now because everyone can detect that social media is bad for them. It's bad for
The
society.
irony of everyone getting together on Twitter to talk about that is not lost on me.
Yeah.
We've talked about that. Yeah, like the amount of people who have heard about Ted Kaczynski through social media rather than like just picking up a book.
Well, I mean, how do you even learn about what book to read now? I ask social media.
Seriously. Yep.
So Ted was right that it's going to create man-made horrors beyond your comprehension, but the only other solution is we go back to being cavemen and dying at 30 from an infection of a stubbed toe or something.
If that's the only alternative to me making a Twitter account, then I'll take it.
I knew that was coming.
Well, I'm going to take indoor plumbing and antibiotics and my Twitter account.
I absolutely not. You enjoy that, Roy. You enjoy that.
Mountain Man Nathan.
Yes.
I want to see it, to be fair.
Yeah.
You're going to have your iPad out in the woods.
I'm going to have my iPad out in the woods, like attached to, I don't know, like a crude hydroelectric dam I've built out of sticks.
Yeah, one of the first times I did a outdoor photo shoot, like special forces dude was like, you know how to like build shelter, find shelter, make fire, all that? I'm like, bro, it's 2014. I got a lighter, bro. I'm gonna be just fine. Yeah, I could see why it's called field craft, like if you go out there with like a cocky attitude and
you're gonna get
limited knowledge and gear, you're gonna get fucked up.
Oh, that is also, aside from getting more than 500 rounds down your AR every year, like, you don't even have to be shooting, lads. Just get out in the woods, camp with your rifle and a few buddies, pack in everything you're using and try and live a couple nights in the woods. Like, that's all I ask, please.
Yeah, you think it's simple, but it's actually really enjoyable and pretty challenging. Like, just the challenge for the next 3 hours is to cook dinner. Like, that was like fun, It's like I gotta find all the fuel. I gotta like make sure I packed everything. It's just really enjoyable. It's a nice detox from modern life. It's closer to how we're supposed to live.
That's truly like when someone says touch grass, that's what I'm picturing. Like go out and like really get out there. Touch mountain.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Is I'll miss Washington's natural beauty.
Oh dude, I couldn't live somewhere without mountains.
Yeah. I say
Western North Carolina, maybe. I don't know. That's where I was there, and it looks just like Washington. Yeah.
I mean, North Carolina. The Carolinas are nice. I mean, I've got a friend who would force me to say the South Carolinas are superior, but I like it out there. It's gorgeous and overgrown, and there's plenty tucked away still. Like there's still spots you can hide out in the Southeast. I'm definitely a Western man, but if I had to do it, the Southeast is there's a similar feeling out in the Appalachians.
Yeah, at times. Because what was it 80% of America lives to the east of the dividing border. So 20% of America living in the West, like you get so much space. It's so awesome. You drive like 2 hours outside of Seattle, and like there'll be like nobody for hundreds of square miles. It's pretty neat.
That I love that because I mean, so many people when they ask me why I left Europe, I'm like, you don't know wilderness unless you've been out to like the Western United States. And you can look in a direction and be like, there is not a soul out there for 100 miles. Like, that's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty unthinkable because was it my wife's? She checked out like the catacombs in Paris where you got like millions of bodies, the millions of just years. Like it's really unthinkable how old history is in Europe, right? Because America's so young. Like to us, old money means somebody like Hugh Hefner. Like, like there's like parts of like the West Coast where things are just so new. It's really hard to imagine, and it's always constantly being rebuilt too. I feel like NYC is probably like the oldest city using their like hundreds-year-old subway, but yeah.
What's left over from the Dutch? Your ancestors, Roy.
I kind of want to do a DNA test and give up my data to the Chinese so I can find my Dutch fucking family or something.
Absolutely. I am vehemently against any doing of 23andMe or any of those tests.
I want to do it so bad, but yeah, I'm like, what are you guys gonna do? You're gonna have
That's
my
how they
fucking
got
spit.
the Idaho killer.
Oh, nice.
Someone in his family, and like, fuck that guy. Don't get me wrong. Like, that guy's a fucking asshole. But someone in his family did 23andMe, and they found him because he left some skin cells behind on a sheath that was left at the scene. And
That's
someone in
wild.
his family had sequenced their DNA, and they narrowed it down to several people.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah. So if you or anyone you know is in one of these data banks, like, they're already being used by law enforcement.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I don't know if anyone else in my family's done it. So.
Yeah, I'm either way.
Well,
I'm
turns
not
out my brother's a serial killer. Oh Jesus! No.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus!
But like, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and right now it's like catching serial killers. What's it going to be catching tomorrow? You know?
Yeah, true. Especially as
American
DNA testing gets so cheap. That's like one thing they think is going to happen. It's like, how like texting used to be expensive? It used to be like 10 cents per text because data was so expensive. Our calling people is expensive. Now it's literally free. Like they think biological testing is going to get to that point, which is good for medicine in some ways, right? You don't want like you don't want your doctor just guessing what's wrong with you, like when they literally could like get an objective test. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure we're not going to have biological data privacy in the future, Nathan.
Oh no! I mean, you'll get pulled over and they'll be taking like a cheek swab, or even less. They'll be like, "Yeah, touch your hand here, sir," and they'll have your whole like genealogy history right there at their fingertips if they need
it's
it.
It's gonna be like Gattaca. Yeah.
What caste are you from?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, which is okay if you're like from a fucking high caste, but like
Gattaca is like one of the most lame, retarded possible futures that we have. And it's kind of like optimistic because it assumes that things will like
be competent.
Continue that we're not all going to end up like fighting over scraps, living in tent camps. But no, that like it's a very real future, providing things don't absolutely just fucking collapse.
Yeah,
man, how do we always end up here, right around the 2-hour mark? Collapse, calamity.
Oh, I'm pretty optimistic. Like,
Yeah, no.
How are you optimistic? You're the one who lives in fucking Washington.
Well, no.
You live in Seattle, outside you can look outside your window and basically see live action like RoboCop.
Well, yeah. That's the thing about Seattle. It's like I like going there, armored up, extra mag and everything, and just to see. It was exciting. It's like, well, here's a nice new restaurant for the yuppies, and right down the street are the streetwalkers, and then right there's the open air drug market. So it's
cool,
like,
a barrel fire.
Yeah, it's just a real fucking cyber dystopia, and obviously, it's not a place to raise a family for sure.
No.
Yeah. So living in Night City.
It's basically Night City. Yeah, it's going to become an Amazon fucking corporate town. You have to be an employee, and you can
company man.
Yeah, you have to spend company credits. You have to wear company clothes.
Like, did you buy something from Walmart or Walmart Inc? No. Oh, that's a pay duct right there.
Yeah, it'll be gated. I mean, South Lake Union, where they have like their major campus, like that area was an industrial, blue collar, kind of shittily designed area, and for years and years they like spent so much money building up the roads, and now it's like a modern, soulless, like crazy campus type thing. It looks like a college campus, but with no college kids. It's all the professors and TAs. Yeah, this is why Jeff Bezos has a $500 million super yacht. So he's able to provide value. I hate to admit it. I use Amazon a lot to buy stuff. I don't know if you guys do, but the convenience.
No, never at all.
Yeah. How dare you?
No, me, I'm much better than everyone else. I of course never use that. I never have people running around pissing in bottles to get me stuff.
Yeah. Actually, one of my friends, he started a company to do like the last mile delivery. And then Amazon, they do stuff like predatory capitalism where they're like, oh, we'll sign this contract. We'll employ you guys for a year. And if you meet the performance goals, we'll give you more. What they do is they make it so they purposely tank the contract after they've gotten all the value out of that company. And then they can hire somebody else, But thankfully, yeah, my friend thinks he has a good chance of winning. So he's actually suing them because the contract was written pretty well and he documented everything. But I was like, damn, like they're doing purposefully malignant, malicious capitalism. It's like, I can't understand that. Because like I always do business like super honest, even though like I was saying, like the margins are terrible. Like if things fuck up and I'm gonna lose money and I fucked up, like fine, like I want to be in this game for a long time. So like a reputation is pretty important.
But, yeah, I mean that's something we talk about a lot on here. Is like once you give up your one reputation, it's gone. Like the second your light blows up in someone's hand or mouth, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's a mass communication thing too. Because I think of the Olight thing, he was using like the wrong type of battery or something like that. But it was like Olight's electrical management system wasn't good, so like the battery was able to overheat and swell and explode. So it wasn't necessarily Olight's fault, but it stuck with Olight forever. Like, I could say that. Like, me explaining that took forever. Whereas, Olight explode. Like that'll be like a meme. And also,
done.
They've committed the aesthetic crime of being a cheap Chinese light. Like maybe other people's lights are also made in China, but they don't have that brand on them. It's like the Hollow Sun thing. Oh God, made in China. Oh yeah, I actually met the owner of Hollow Sun, and I think I brought this up last time. Just a random Chinese guy, and has a Ferrari in a place without many roads. They have their factory in the western deserts of China, and then it's subsidized by the Chinese government. But you got using allegedly. Actually, edit that out. Bleep that out. You have American companies allegedly using Hollow Sun components that go on to serve with military units, and then you have the Russians, Ukrainians, all using Hollow Sun sites. Like Hollow Sun is like the site for the whole world. That Coca-Cola commercial. Where like
bringing everyone together.
Yeah, everyone unites. They start singing one Coke, one world. It's like one Hollow Site killing site for everybody.
We're all shooting at each other with Hollow Sun, and you know what? That's kind of beautiful, isn't
it? Yeah, it's all because Aimpoint didn't invest in scaling. Like they literally invented the reflex LED weapon sight, and if they had like kept the technology somehow, or maybe scaled up to like compete against Hollow Sun, they could have done it. But man, I feel real bad for them. Like Aimpoint stuff is still markedly superior, but it's also 3 times the cost. So
yeah,
I can't really say anything. I've been simping for primary arms lately. We have 0, 0, 0, 0 relationship, and they don't know who we are. But I've really liked the class stuff lately. Like I've replaced Aimpoint and EOTech stuff with prisms.
Yeah, if the value's there, the value's there. Also, primary arms, them going with prisms, which I thought was always kind of an underrated sighting technology. It was
Oh
pretty
yeah,
neat.
it's
Yeah,
really great.
because like Leopold did for a while too, but Leopold has a problem in leadership, and I heard that the family that owns them, like they're not into tactical stuff at all, right? So
Yeah.
they're all about the hunting stuff. So like the tactical division has to work super hard to get like military contracts, and then because military contracts, it goes to the civilian side, something like that. So it's like one of my friends who exports stuff to like other governments. Like they wanted the hammer sites, the HAMR that Leopold
Yeah,
made.
yeah. Mitch used to have one of those.
Yeah, but those never really took off because they didn't really promote them. I feel to the commercials market. Just your branding kind of matters, and if Leopold dug in deep and like really believed in the we're America's tactical scope, like I think that would
They
have
could
been
have had it.
yeah, that would have been good for them. If they did more product development, if they leaned into like what they have, like being a U.S. optics manufacturer, that would have been great. They had that Aimpoint competitor a while back, and I don't think it really went anywhere either. Too.
The LCO.
Oh no, not even that one. The cheap one, the affordable one. I think Sinistro Rifleman was testing it. But yeah, the
I
LCO
don't
being
know.
$900 and like a giant red dot, that's kind of a problem. Like optically, it did perform really well, and it is a cool thing. But yeah, the competing against Holosun and other competitors is just so difficult, and that's the beauty of capitalism. Like the strongest survive. You're forced to innovate, get better, get good.
Yeah.
Skill
Yeah,
issue.
genuinely, you can't rest on your laurels. Like you have to keep on innovating and being the one that's doing the most in that area. Otherwise, like why would I go to you unless it's like the one thing this industry does have is brand loyalty. Like a lot of people, it might not even matter superiority or cost. Like if they have a thing for a certain brand, like I think we're all guilty of it at some level. Like I grew up shooting Leopold glass on hunting rifles in England, and so that's I was kind of a little bit more loyal to them when it came time to pick a top dot for my LPVO. I was like, well, I kind of want to give the Delta Point Pro a go.
It's a good
been a while
sight.
since I've had
Yeah.
like I want some Leopold glass again, so I went with that. And people can talk shit about that decision. There's plenty of other viable options, but I was like, you know what, I like that brand, even if they're not necessarily like crushing or innovating in the same way as some other people. Kind of resting on those laurels. I don't know. It happens to the best of us, I think,
Yeah, for sure. It's
and me.
It's human beings have a bunch of cognitive flaws, and if you think that you're like super logical and unemotional, yeah, it's just not true. Like the data definitely shows that human beings are super easy to manipulate. I talk about that with cults all the time because cults fascinate me a lot because a lot of the same elements that cults use to program people is like basically just marketing, branding, advertising, community management,
Yeah, no, genuinely. It's just every big cult, or especially the profitable ones, have some really fucking good marketers behind them.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean the ideal business brand is you have a great cult that you fucking run responsibly, benevolently. You deliver value to your fans, to your loyal fans.
Yeah, not your cult.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that with Coca-Cola. Like they saw, like I think their shareholders meeting, they wanted to do like, hey, should we have like woke bullshit, and they're like, "Fuck no," because after they don't involve anything, you know. But yeah, Coca-Cola is based in Atlanta, so they're like, which is where CNN is, so they're especially vulnerable. I feel to woke bullshit, but they're able to resist it because money talks. Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing those stocks tank is that's enough to generally change tune in how these people are running things.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't necessarily tanking, but like they went from conservatives and their stupid boycotts, bullshit. They're gonna still keep drinking Bud Light anyways. Fuck you. Like they immediately about faced in about like 4 weeks when like the boycott and like the brand issue started to become like a real thing. Like,
They're like, oh, it's not going away in 72 hours. Fuck.
Yeah. When they started when dudes when country singers started changing their lyrics, at concerts they would like scream out Coors Light instead of Bud Light, or stuff like that. Like it became real. So it showed that sometimes cancel culture is bullshit. It's not real, but destroying your brand on purpose is definitely a real thing.
Yeah, and all too easy to do if you get mouthy and too cocky.
Yeah. Bud Light not understanding their own customers is like hilarious because everyone knows that Bud Light's like the working class, like blue collar man, like a real Americans drink a
Yeah, it used to be like one of the most popular drinks in the South.
Yeah, and then that stupid marketing exec who she literally went to Harvard's business school and having a MBA. Like she's like, oh, we just need to do the standard issue ESG thing and kiss like the ass of the rainbow color people. But it's like she didn't understand any of it because she doesn't understand the LGBTQ community. And she doesn't understand freaking her core community, so she ends up with nothing. Like because even gay bars are turning against Bud Light because they're not necessarily pro-trans, So it was like she took a huge risk and she ended up losing everything. But to her, it must have seemed like a safe choice. Like, oh, we're just gonna appeal to people, but. Yeah, that just goes to show that having a degree doesn't necessarily make you smart. Does make you wise, I would say, or worldly.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you understand your job or the thing that you trained to do for 5 years. Like, you put it into practical use. Oops.
Yeah.
That's not how the world works, honey. Sorry.
Yeah, so when it comes to hiring marketing people, gun industries definitely have a big challenge because you have a lot of people who are like diehard enthusiasts. They say shit like, "Oh, I'll work for free." When someone tells you that they'll work for free, that's a bad sign. Right? If you're good at something, you'll never do it for free. Like just like Joker says in Batman. And like that whole novelty aspect, that wears off pretty quick in a real job. It's like, oh, I work at a gun shop for free. Oh, clearly you haven't worked at a gun shop before because I definitely would not advise that, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone in this industry who spent time behind a gun counter, myself included, fuck that.
Yeah. So like when it comes,
it's fun the first day or two, and then it's hell.
Yeah. So like marketing's a craft. So when you're a gun company, you got to like hire somebody who's good at the craft itself of marketing, and also like understand the customer base and potential customer base. So really know human nature. So like you could be like a autistic young genius that understands people so well, but that's so rare. I feel like the average like perfect marketing person is probably like early 30s and well-traveled, been around, and really knows like their community. They need a level of maturity, basically.
Yeah, because if you just go with kind of the impulsive, like, oh yeah, people will think this way. All right, well, did you consider the other like 4 sides of this issue? Yeah, probably not. You're gonna get eaten alive by one of them.
Yeah, if you're just like a corporate person, you just go by the dumb playbook and end up fucking yourself.
end up doing an apology post a day later.
Yeah, well, which I think was actually that showed that they do have a level of professionalism.
That was the best thing HK could have done was be like, hey, yeah, we acknowledge we're not just gonna like sit on our cross and be like, yep, everything is good. That was the best thing they could have done with that fuck up.
Yeah. Plus, they need the money, man. Like as we know, they're having they've had cash flow issues for a while. The whole reason you can get HK 416s from Brownells was because HK. Oh, yeah. This is the scuttlebutt I heard. I have no idea if it's true. This is all alleged. But I heard back in the day, Colt was so bad at cash management, they would sell their raw components or parts to Brownells for them to stock because they needed the cash. And then when they got an order, they'd buy the stuff back from Brownells at a higher price. Because Brownells would be selling them as a distributor. They're just that poorly managed. And HK was having that kind of problem too. And that's why there were a shitload of 416 receivers, 416 gas blocks, 416, everything you needed to build a 416, like Brownells managed to acquire from a European distributor, right? So those BRN4, that's the Brownells variant of the HK 416. Those were the raw receivers that they got that were meant for HK. They bought them from the surplus dealer, and then they machined them into a BRN4 receiver in the US.
Huh.
So, yeah, I mean, the lack of margins and cash flow issues and all that bullshit, yeah, that affects the big boys just as much as the little guys. So, yeah, if somebody wants to be a patron of the arts and gun retailing, I could always use an angel investor.
Yeah, I does not go amiss in this industry. Well, no, that's it. We're at 2 hours 15. We wanna bring her home.
I think so.
Oh yeah.
Roy, is it anything you wanna touch on before we get out of here?
I would say that the political stuff is always a trap, no matter what the politics is. But there's also a very good quote. It was just because you do not take an interest in politics doesn't mean politics won't take an interest in you. That was Pericles, Athenian general, who helped lay the groundwork for the Parthenon, part of the golden age of city-state of Athens.
How long did that come before the fall?
Well, it was I think it was like 4 to 500 BC. So a few hundred years, right? And I don't really know my classic history.
Yeah, neither do I. I was like, I'm not much of a marble statue profile picture kind of guy, but what I do know is all good things come crumbling down in that period at least. But
yeah, so when it comes to political shit, got to pick and choose your battles.
Very much. Well, all right. Before we head out of here, we do have one last thing to bug you with, and you might know it's coming. We gotta get some dad advice from you, Roy.
Dad advice?
The listenership are your eager and in need of advice children. Like, what do you tell them as Daddy Roy?
Well, lately, freaking relationship stuff is really out there. Like, people on the internet love talking about relationship stuff because, it's fucked up right now with dating is difficult for everyone. And it's relatable, I guess. Yeah. So I think the one piece of advice I got that was so good was that relationships and love have nothing to do with one another, right? Because love is about compromise and being totally humiliated and willing to do anything for this person, whereas relationships have give and take. So it's nice to have a relationship where there's love in there, but yeah, understanding that there's like a psychological difference between the two was crazy because it really opened up my eyes to my past relationships. And I feel very lucky that, I married who I did. But yeah, don't be so desperate and eager for love that you make bad decisions, young men and women.
Very nice and very important. I think a lot of people, especially in this kind of climate, like if someone's even 20% of what they're looking for, they might get a little bit ahead of themselves. All right, Nathan, you're not jumping in with dad advice.
Delete your Twitter. Delete all social media. Run into the woods. Start
Live in
scoping
the
out
woods.
Lucky.
for weaknesses. Okay, we should probably censor that one. That joke is not going to go over super well.
Yeah, the North Carolina police are gonna be looking for you.
But in all seriousness, the internet sucks. Don't.
It's how people are listening to us right now.
I don't care.
Asshole.
I have. Shoot more, lift more. Simp less. Okay, bye.
Peace. All right. Thanks everyone for listening, and yeah. Okay, bye.